silent, please. No vibrations. Huh? Yes, yes, you could use it as a, if you need to refer to it. Good evening and welcome to Tobago Matters. I am Glendora Lashley, moderator for this evening's episode. Tobago Matters is a virtual series of community meetings aimed at providing accountability and transparency to the population of Tobago and, by extension, Trinidad. This series is to allow for the Tobago House of Assembly to report to the population on its plans and initiatives while facilitating dialogue with and feedback from the population. This program is live on Tobago Channel 5, TTT, and on the Facebook pages for Tobago Channel 5, as well as the Office of the Chief Secretary, THA. We're also live on radio on Pulse 89.5 FM, on Radio Tambourine 92.7 FM, and on Street 919 FM. This evening, we will be looking at harnessing our creativity, with a special focus on the soon-to-be-launched Tobago Performing Arts Company, We have 4 panelists joining us this evening. Secretary with responsibility for tourism, culture, and transportation, Chief Secretary Ancil Dennis. We have the Chief Executive Officer of the Tobago Performing Arts Company, Elvis Radgman. We have the Artistic Director at the Tobago Performing Arts Company, Rayshawn Pierre, and we have Tpac's Film Director, Prima. Good evening, panelists.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, we will now go to each panelist to get a brief introduction. Of course, you all are fully familiar with the Chief Secretary. He's no stranger, and we know that the Chief Secretary is responsible for the overall policy direction of the THA. So I'm going to ask the CEO of Tpac, Elvis Radgman, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Good evening, viewers, and thank you and welcome. My name is Elvis Radgman, CEO of the Tobago Performing Arts Company, a practitioner, a cultural activist, a strategist in the arts for well over 30 years. My responsibility is to help lead the Tpac team and the strategy in terms of developing the creative sector here in Tobago.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Artistic Director Rayshawn Peare.
Good evening, everyone. I am Rayshawn Pierre, the Artistic Director of the Tobago Performing Arts Company. I am a theatre director, playwright, arts educator, youth program developer, and above all, a storyteller. In Tpac, I have responsibility for the disciplines of drama and dance, as well as the overall artistic excellence of the company.
Thank you very much, Rayshawn. We will go to the Film Director, Prima.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just like everyone here, I'm also a cultural activist. I am a film director and actor, also no stranger to the stage. And I am really excited for the plans that Tpac has for the film department and really energizing film here in Tobago.
Thank you very much. Now, if you've been viewing Tobago Matters, you will observe that this is a slight deviation to the type of panelists that we've been having in terms of we're focusing solely on the Tpac, the Tobago Performing Arts Academy. We're going to take a short break. I'm asking you to stay with us. This promises to be a very exciting episode of Tobago Matters. We'll be right back.
I decided to take the vaccine to first provide protection for myself and my family and the people around me, including my co-workers and everybody I come into contact with, including the public. In the course of my duties, I am heavily engaged in public discussion, public meets, and I do a lot of investigations in the public. So I decided, based on the empirical data provided and based on advice of my physician, that the vaccine is the way to go to protect us all. So, vax up, protection starts with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back to Tobago Matters. I must apologize. I said Academy previously. It is the Tobago Performing Arts Company. All right, maybe I'm so excited about all that's in train for this company that I'm giving you a different name. Before we jump into the panel discussion, let me tell the viewing and listening audience that you will get the opportunity to engage with the panelists as usual. You're going to be able to call in later in the program. We're also going to take your questions or contributions live from Facebook and on WhatsApp, and we will give you those numbers later on in the program. But for now, we invite you to sit back, relax, and listen to the conversation. Chief Secretary, good evening to you.
Good evening to you.
You on the hot seat as we start this evening, all right? A lot of buzz around Tpac. The company's social media has been very, very active, and it's been attracting a lot of attention. So before we get into all of that, I have to take some things out of the way because people have questions. Why the need to create Tpac. Some are asking, what is the difference between the Tobago Performing Arts Company and the Tobago Festivals Commission?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Of course, good evening to you, Madam Moderator, and the fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be in the good expert company of the representatives of the newly established Tobago Performing Arts Company. And of course, good evening to all our listeners and viewers across Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, and maybe the globe. There is a possibility that persons are taking in this program from outside of our borders. Of course, you have the Division of Tourism, Culture and Transportation. Within that division, there is the Department of Culture that is responsible for the overall policy direction of culture on the island. And of course, culture is very broad. It includes the entire creative sector, fashion, our festivals, our entertainment, and of course the performing arts. We have a company with specific responsibility for promoting, marketing, and even executing our major festivals on the island, and I've also given them the responsibility to develop new festivals because of course I expect that by the time the tourism sector reopens, and I'm hoping that that is soon, we are going to have a calendar of events for Tobago with a number of world-class, attractive and exciting festivals on the island. But now you have the Tobago Performing Arts Company, where we are now placing specific emphasis on the performing arts, which is another part of the creative sector, and it might even very well be the most visible aspect of it. It includes music, dance, film, and of course, drama or theater. So, it is my firm belief that now is the time for us to do more within that sector, the creative sector, and of course, specifically here, the performing arts sector. I believe it has the potential to assist us to diversify our economy and even promote Tobago and Tobago's tourism and its people in a more meaningful way.
Okay. Another hot seat question before we get into the meat of the matter. There was at least one person on social media that had other people, asking about this as well. They were looking at the composition of the board of directors for Tpac, and one of the things that stood out is people were questioning, where are the young people on the board? They say the board have one young person, and that young person have no voting power. so the question is, in your wisdom, where are the young people on the board?
Yeah, well, I take youth representation very seriously. So of course, in selecting the board for the company, I looked at a number of things. I looked for persons who I believe had the experience, who had a track record of delivery and performance within the performing arts sector. And of course, I looked at youth as well. And there is actually a young person with voting power on the board in Mr. Kern Kawan. And of course, you have the secretary to the board is also another young person, and the ex officio representing the Department of Culture is also a young person as well. But notwithstanding age, every single member of that board is worth their salt. They have a track record within the performing arts or within the creative sector generally. I need not mention the background and the contributions of persons such as Beverly Ramsey-Moore, Ms. Cheryl Uzuru, Mr. Len Phillips, Mr. Lance Jack, Mr. Eric Powder, who is a former manager of the Tobago Festivals Commission, Ms. Arlene Daniel, who taught a number of young Tobagonians to dance. So when you look at the board, I think the board was well selected. All the individuals there can carry their weight, and I'm quite confident that now that you have, of course, the company recruiting the leadership, you are seeing a number of young persons coming forward now, a number of young persons who were trained and developed by some of these persons on the board that people calling old. Right? So I am happy that the company is going in the right direction. I am tremendously proud of the experience on the board. And I'm also proud of the youthfulness and the expertise that we have residing even at the management level of the company.
All right. Thank you very much. And that's true, because as we saw things coming out in the social media, you really saw the shift towards the younger ones in terms of age at those people who are employed, staff. I want to go to the CEO of Tpac. Now, you have been in culture, you said, for 3 decades now. We all know you. Every Tobagonian above a certain age will know you, at least for dancing. So you've been in the cultural fraternity for quite a long time. Do you believe that Tobagonians are ready for what Tpac is being positioned to bring to this island? You know, the Chief Secretary has given you guys a tall task. Do you believe that Tobagonians are ready for what Tpac is going to bring or is expected to bring to Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago by extension?
Glendora, the best way to answer that is yes. We're certainly ready. For someone who has been in the industry for the last 30 years, I have seen how we have gone about, providing necessary kind of support for the industry, and Tobago has no shortage of talent. Just by our rollout plan that we've had over the last 2 weeks, in terms of the kind of response that we've been receiving from our fellow colleagues, partners, practitioners here in Tobago, and nationally, and actually it has gone past national. We have been receiving communications from Grenada, Barbados, Florida. So we have people who are really excited about this new thing happening here in Tobago. I think it's an opportune time for us to kind of really start looking at the arts and looking at the kind of benefits that we could derive. We've been talking for quite some time about diversifying the economy, and Tobago, when we look at what we have to offer, yes, we have beautiful beaches, yes, we have beautiful sites, but we also have a rich cultural pool that I am very happy that the Tobago House of Assembly has decided to take the leap, because many other countries across the world, they have not done it. And the Tobago House of Assembly took the leap and invested in this company and gave it a team, allowed the company to have a team led by Mr. Len Phillips and the entire board of directors. And now we have an entire very young, energetic, experienced, and trained group of people. I think this is the best time. It's an opportune time, and I'm very excited about what will be happening in Tobago over the next couple of months and years to come.
All right, so tell me this. We know that you all are, getting ready to launch and you're settling in nicely. At least we hope so. As CEO, what are some of the immediate goals of Tpac as you get set to take Tobago by storm?
So some of our immediate goals at this point in time, of course, we are engaging with our stakeholders. We want to hear from our stakeholders, because we are really learning from other companies similar like this happening in Trinidad, functioning in Trinidad. We want to dot our I's and cross our T's. So we are engaging with our stakeholders. We currently have a nationwide survey going out, currently out in the media, where we capture information. So we're really taking a very data-driven approach to how we gather information and how that information then feeds into how we roll out our plans. So we have our surveys going out. We have our stakeholder engagement happening. That commenced two days ago, and it's going to be continuing during the month of September. We have our launch of the company, and we call it the Tobago Fireworks. Tobago Fireworks, 7:30 p.m. August 31st on right here on Channel 5. We have the launch of Tpac, something that we all are very excited about and ready to share. And of course, very soon after, we will be dealing with the auditioning of our residents. We really want to start getting our residents on board and starting our training programs so we could go out and start getting the business of the business done.
All right, thank you for that. We're going to come back to you. I want to go to your artistic director. You are both a practitioner and educator in this area. What do you think Tpac will and is supposed to contribute to the fabric of our society, particularly Tobago at this point?
Thank you, Glendora. As a practitioner and educator, one of the things that I have recognized firsthand is that it is almost impossible to realize the vast amount of opportunities that can be achieved through the performing arts in the absence of training and capacity building. And so in the first instance, Tpac will provide training for artists on the ground, and not just any type of training, or not just limited to artistic training. We're also talking about holistic and technical training that can really position our creators on the ground to lead the sector. Our overarching goal is set at sector development, but we recognize that sector development does not happen overnight. And so we're going to be taking small steps, small strategic steps to achieve that goal of training and nurturing and development in efforts to advance the Tobago performing arts sector. The other thing is that we will act as a support machinery for the community and cultural groups on the ground who, in the absence of Tpac, has been our cultural flag bearers and purveyors. And I'm using the word machinery strategically because machines are function specific. And so where there are areas of lack, Tpac will stand in the gap. We recognize that our cultural and community organizations who have been practicing and have been performing can not only use the support, but that type of support will help feed into support and, most importantly, sustain the sector, because we're talking about sustainable development.
So as you talk about sustainable development and what you're looking at doing, you have the task, I believe, of developing an official ongoing arts program for the island. Speak to that just a little bit.
Sure. It is no secret that art reflects so much of our lives, particularly in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago. In Tobago, we've been able to realize ourselves, our history, new possibilities, because art has always been a mirror for us. What we intend to do is, in the first instance, dip into our resource pool, which is our cultural resources. I think I'm speaking to everybody in the world who's viewing, and I'm saying boldly and confidently and without any fear of contradiction, Tobago has never been short on talent. So we are going to dip into some of that talent. We're going to dip into that talent and develop proficiencies, but we're going to do it in a strategic way. You can expect that our programs will amalgamate our cultural intelligence as well as education. When it comes to cross-sector collaboration, you can expect that whenever a social development issue arises, that Tpac and its artistic offering will be foremost in response to and recovery from, particularly because we're in a pandemic and we're talking about resurgence.
Exciting. This sounds really, really exciting. Before I ask you any more questions, let me bring in the film director, Mr. Prima. Film is not as popular as music, as dance, as live drama. What will be your initial action steps to energize this niche in Tobago?
Well, I'm really glad you said that, because that is something I have also been observing, and I think there really was a reason why I got that Fulbright scholarship. You know, I worked really hard and I learned as much as I can, and I realized it was to come back and serve Tobago. Right. So I'm really proud to be back here serving. And my strategy is show, then tell. That's what I've been saying for the past couple of weeks. We will be creating content because Elvis always talks about that. We're going to be producing work, we're going to be training, yes. But we have to show people the possibilities. So in-house, we're going to be creating a range of content that shows how we could really utilize our culture and use it in a way that could make it travel. I mean, I want to just quickly reference my thesis film before I left school. The lecturers, the students in Tallahassee, in Florida, they were excited about the Laja Blessing folklore. They wanted to hear more. So clearly, our culture is valuable. So we really want to show Tobago, and of course the rest of the world, we could utilize what we have here. And through the techniques that I've learned and I wish to impart, we could change the game and we can really take Tobago and put Tobago on the international scale.
No, I'm happy you said that, because we have both Channel 5 and TTT around looking for local content. You spoke about your thesis film, which I will classify as local content, and you know we've had private discussions well before Tpac was a thing about the need for local content. So what can we expect? Yes, you're talking about content. You're going to create your digital footprint at Tpac. Are you going to tackle local content first? Are you going to do something different? Are you starting with a mandate to really build local content? Let me ask it like that.
Well, that's always been my thing. I mean, you could look at all the work I've produced. All my work is stemmed from local content. That's my space. I came up from theater. That's what we were taught. I mean, Rayshawn and I, we work so well together doing so many different things. And before I could even begin to think about something else, I am still combing through the millions of stories and millions of possibilities from local content. I mean, there's so many different avenues to take this thing. And then I'm talking narrative now. I'm not even talking about the potential for cinematic documentary, showing people our Tobago wedding, showing people how we bake bread with the dirt oven. There's so much possibilities. I'm really getting excited because we have stories for years and years and years, and I think it's important not just for me to say that, but for us to get the other filmmakers and the young people who are on TikTok making little videos, who are on IG Lives, get them excited about tapping into our local content. It is valuable. It's not low grade. We just need to teach them how to raise the standard.
I love that you said that. Thank you very much. And I'm going back to the Chief Secretary now because, Chief, you have said previously, you've been very, very daring. And I think that the formation of this company is one of those daring steps that you've taken. And let's hope that, Tobagonians far and wide really embrace the vision. We may disagree with, certain policy aspects and that kind of thing, but the overall vision, hopefully it sinks. You have declared that even in a COVID pandemic, you said that the orange economy is what Tobagonians should really look at to push our island economy further. Right? Now, I'm sorry I have to ask you this, but I have to ask you it because I've seen it as a question. Unfortunately, we have people who don't know what the orange economy is. So we're going to have to explain the orange economy. I won't do it. I'm going to ask you to do it. But my question to you as a follow-on to that is to say to us how you see Tpac basically being of benefit to the island's economy in terms of longer term contributing to the national GDP?
Well, the orange economy is basically the creative industry, the creative sector. It includes a whole lot of things. Of course, the performing arts, which we're here discussing this evening. It includes culinary arts, virtual arts, fashion, software creation, you name it, media, all those things. Tpac, when I think about Tpac, I see so many possibilities. Of course, we are in a pandemic, as you rightfully said, and it gives us an opportunity to really pause and reflect on the direction of the island, the direction of our tourism sector, which we say is our mainstay. But it gives us an opportunity to really diversify. And when I say diversify, I mean to place a more serious emphasis on other aspects of our Tobago-ness that we have going for us. And a number of the panelists said it, and I want to say it as well, that Tobago has some of the most, let me rephrase that, Tobago has the most talented dancers, musicians, filmmakers, actors, and other creatives in the world. I'm not even saying the country. And I'm saying Tpac will present an opportunity for us to really harness that, for us to really develop those talents in a meaningful way. And when I look at my own experience as a musician, of course, I started playing the drums at around age 10. I grew up playing the drums in church. I gravitated towards music outside of the church as well. I played for a band called Masterminds, which comprised probably the most talented musicians on the island at the point in time. But I was basically self-developed. I didn't necessarily have access to training and opportunities until I got to the point where even without those opportunities to train and develop, I became a drum tutor myself within the Department of Culture. Tpac is going to create a platform where our young and upcoming musicians, dancers, actors, and other persons within that performing arts sector will have access to training. And I'm talking about high-class training. And I'm saying high-class training because the company is now in a position where they have recruited some of the best on the island and in the country. They mention their background, and of course you have Justin Peterkin, who is not here with us this evening. He's the musical director, and I'm not biased, but music is probably my greatest interest in the performing arts sector. But Justin is actually a Berkeley-trained musician and producer, right? And of course, persons in Tobago, especially our young and upcoming musicians, dancers, actors, etc., having access to that kind of training is going to significantly improve our product that comes out of that sector, and of course generally the sector across the board in terms of the quality of musicianship in our bands, the quality of acting at our festivals and our community events and that sort of stuff, and even the tourism sector. As I was saying earlier before we began the program, I can envision a situation where hopefully we return to a situation where we have the tourism sector thriving again and cruise ships coming in. We can have situations where passengers are leaving cruise ships from Scarborough or leaving hotels from down at Crown Point and coming to the cultural complex, the Shore Park Cultural Complex, to experience a bit of what Tobago has to offer in the performing arts. Maybe a performance by the orchestra, maybe a performance from the dancers, maybe a display of some of our films produced and created here in Tobago about some of those Tobago stories Prima spoke about. And of course, maybe a crash course here or there on a musical instrument or a speech band or something of the sort, right? And finally, that cultural complex that we invested millions in, and rightfully so, will be brought to life by the Tobago Performing Arts Company. It will be the home of the company. At some point, they will recruit the resident musicians, the resident dancers, the resident actors, and on any given day, you're going to have music, you're going to have dance, you're going to have theater, and of course, film making at the cultural complex.
Okay, all right. I am more on the controversial side when it comes to that that Shore Park Cultural Complex. I have publicly stated on several occasions I believe we should break it down, but I won't ask you anything about that because unfortunately I have to be transparent and honest with you, Chief Secretary.
I'm saying it will come to life.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not that it has been dead. Of course, we have had several events there and that kind of stuff. But
no,
we
that's
have
not the issue in terms of the potential for the use. It's more the infrastructural issues, you know, sometimes. And again, that could be a conversation for another time. The cost associated with maintaining it. Over the years, when we look at what the cost is, I wonder if that's not too much of a heavy burden on the state, as opposed to maybe getting rid of it now, doing it over properly.
Not at all. I wouldn't suggest that it wasn't done properly. Now, a facility of that magnitude, of course, you're going to have a significant maintenance bill. And therefore, we must ensure that we derive all the possible benefits of it. So, of course, it's there. You have events from time to time. Chances are we're going to have the one-off major event that will fill it to capacity. Of course, we have opportunities to attract even other organizations, external organizations, international and even local, to utilize it for other events. But I'm saying, during the conceptual stages, when this facility was conceptualized, one aspect of it had to do with it being a space for training and development within the performing arts. And I'm saying that will now come to a reality with the inception of this company.
All right.
It will come to life.
I do have my fingers crossed for you, and I'm excited about what could happen. I want to go to the CEO. With respect to what you said earlier, you spoke about a few of the immediate goals.
Yes.
You spoke about stakeholder engagement surveys, the launch, of course, which is coming up on Independence Day, and you spoke about the auditioning of residents. Now, I know that you have some staff already, and let me just call out some of them because the Chief Secretary spoke about our Berkeley train. Justin, I did not know that. Congratulations to the gentleman. We have Garnet Lawrence, we have Shaquille Jones, and we have O.J. Richards. Many Tobagonians know all of these people. So I'm asking you this, I'm saying this and asking you in the context, when you say auditioning of residents, tell me And everybody who's listening that doesn't know anything about theater and performing arts, what do you mean by that?
So in Auditioning of Residence, we have 4 major areas. We have dance, we have film, we have theater, and we have music. So we have, based on our approval from the Exec Council, we have a certain amount of individuals that we could take in each of the relevant areas. And the artistic director and her team will now design an entire auditioning process where people will go through different things to become part of the company. Because being part of Tpac is a full-time engagement. We are actually asking to invest in their time and energies in terms of honing their skills to ensure we get the best possible outcome from the artist itself, but also as to how we can lend support to organizations. So we will have that auditioning process, and everything will be very incremental. We'll not be starting everything at the same time. So as I said, we have 4 disciplines. So once we have fine-tuned certain details with the board of directors, we will then determine what the rollout plan. But at this point in time, the entire team is currently just working on fine-tuning their programs, because we intend to hit the ground running come October, the start of the new fiscal year. So right now we're just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. We're using the information coming out from the surveys to kind of really help shape, shift, amend, make the necessary adjustments accordingly. Because the intention of Tpac is to serve the people. And to serve the people is to have the information from the people. So the team is currently putting what they know to be in place, but we're also seeking the kind of guidance. We want to get information from other practitioners, other stakeholders, the knowledge bearers. So we are now factoring all that in the conversation. Once we have that, we roll out our auditioning process from the month of October through December, with the intention that by December, Tpac will be producing its first production at Shaw Park.
Right. Okay. This is an interesting approach. I don't know if I've seen this in Tobago before. I have been, as a matter of fact, I am a part of it, being sort of a stakeholder of something that the UN is currently implementing. And they are using this kind of scientific approach, where as opposed to coming to you with a set way, you're actually going from the ground up and building. And Chief Secretary, you're taking some very daring steps here. I really have to say kudos to you for doing this, but again, we're not sure, how people will see it. Hopefully, as you flesh out what is happening, you explain to Tobagonians, not just tonight, but throughout in the coming future, the reason for the approach, because it really does seem like a more scientific thing that we're not accustomed to too much in Tobago, because I'm hearing surveys, and I'm going to come back to you and ask about those surveys. But let me ask you, artistic director, you spoke about training as one of the main things, and I want to ask you to explain to us. Unfortunately, I have to ask you all these baby step questions, right? Explain to us when you say artistic training versus holistic training and technical training and so on. Just tell us the difference and what Tobagonians can look forward to.
Sure. Let me start by saying, Glendora, that having talent is great. Managing talent is what is sustainable. So the approach that we're taking, and when we talk about artistic training, we're really talking about delving into the disciplines. We're dealing with best practice of each discipline and in each area to help the artists not only develop the craft that they know, but to really bring to the fore and to the attention industry standards that will inevitably make them more marketable. We're also talking about technical training, because what we have, and this is a very common thing, is that dancers dance and actors act and musicians play music or sing. And what happens is that there is oftentimes a lack of understanding of the technical aspects of performance. Things like the way in which costumes work, things like light and sound engineering, and things like the curation of a performance experience through a front of house. So when we talk about technical training, we're also talking about building up the technical and tactical capacity of the players. When we talk about holistic training, we're really talking about preparing the artist for life beyond Tpac. Because Tpac is not the bird who afraid to let go she children. It's not that kind of situation. We prepare the artist to go out into the world. That is the aim and the goal. And so when we talk holistic training, we're talking about things like understanding copyright and intellectual property rights. So very simply put, nobody will take advantage of you and your talent. We're talking about professional writing. We're talking about brand management and media management. We're talking about public speaking. Wow. We're talking about being able to interview. So you name it. We've already started to itemize those things in our program. All of our approaches are multi-tiered, and in that way, we don't miss any mark. All of our boxes checked, because at the heart and at the nucleus of our operations is the sustainability and the development of our artists, the creative artists.
Okay, I love how you put that. You're getting me excited, but I have to keep calm and I can't move around too much. Listen, Tobagonians especially, if you're listening tonight, call every other Tobagonian that you know. Call them who here on the island, who in foreign, who wherever. Make sure that you tune in right now. We are live on Tobago Channel 5. We are live on TTT. We're live on Facebook, on the pages for Tobago Channel 5, as well as the page for the Office of the Chief Secretary, THA. And we're also live on the radio, right? Pulse 89.5 FM, Radio Tambourine 92.7 FM, and of course Street 919 FM. And I'm saying that to say you have absolutely no excuse why you're not tuned in right now. All of us who are Tobagonians, born, bred, if you come by boat, that's okay. All right? Tune in, because the Chief Secretary and his team here, they are making some bold declarations. They're also showing us and telling us that there's more to get from the island other than what we know. You know, the traditional tourism sector and the other sectors. They're telling us that they are offering more. All of the young people, just what the artistic director just spoke about there, all of the artists that you know, make sure that they tune in, because what she just spoke about is something that's very important, and that's perhaps training that you will want, and of course questions that you will want to ask of them. Now let me switch to the film director. All right, we spoke about local content a little while ago and so on, and I mentioned to you previously in another discussion, anime is a big thing.
Oh yes.
Right? Already, with the Chief Secretary's team at Executive Council level, we saw that EID Cut, I think, they have done some work around anime, at least getting people started in a very basic way. But you now touched on, right? You come to change up the thing. Let me talk like them young people feel. You come to change up the thing, right? I have an 8-year-old daughter that asked me about anime, right? I wouldn't call my age, but I had to go on Google to see what was safe anime, because the anime that I was exposed to may not be safe for the 8-year-old eyes. What I'm seeing in you here now, and tell me if I'm wrong, are we going to be producing Tobago anime? And I just want to put a little thing there for all of you anime fans. We know anime is Japanese, but somewhere in Google says that is any animation really. All right, so when I say Tobago anime, you understand where I'm coming from. Don't kill me after. Don't go on the Tobago Channel 5 page and say we don't know what we're talking about. So, Mr. Prima, what can we see with respect to animation? Because we have all sorts of people, all sorts of audiences to capture.
All right, so I'm glad you said that. And I might be speaking out of turn here, so forgive me, Boku Village Council, but I'm putting you on the spotlight. Before Tpac, I was actually engaged in discussion with the Boku Village Council, who said, we can't have goat race, but we want to have an animated goat racing film. And I only say that, well, one, so nobody else can teeth it. But also, to put it into context, that every aspect of our cultural life could become animation. I mean, I did a film about Elijah Bless. Imagine if that was done as an animation. Imagine what we could really do, the possibilities. And then we grew up saying, A is for apple, B is for bat. Why A can be for Nancy? So we have a chance through animation to really teach our young people about our culture. Animation really, if you think that film has no limits, animation really has absolutely no limits. And what I'm excited about, and I'm going to call his name, I hope he's watching, Jarrell Granderson, one of my past students at Pentecostal Light and Life. He is the person that I engaged to have this discussion. He is actually an accomplished animator. We have Kyle Stevens, who did some of the animations and the graphics for us for launch, the fireworks I was talking about. Amazing animator. It's limitless, and I am excited because there are so many stories that could really be translated, perhaps best, through animation.
So Call the names again for me. You know I get excited when I hear young people's name from Tobago. Please forgive me. Call the two young people's names again.
Well, one is from Trinidad, but the amount of conversations we had, no, he's Tobago. So Kyle Stevens, we really appreciate you.
Right.
And Jarrell Granderson,
All right.
past student of Pentecostal Light and Life, and I must put in a plug here, just like Rayshawn and Pierre. All right, doing great things.
We go into the Chief Secretary because, Chief, we've had some of your colleagues on in previous episodes, and a big discussion every time a politician sits here is money. I like to look at the cost of everything. I take it that you were able to convince your colleagues to come this far, but this is a tall task.
It did take
Where
some
is the
convincing.
funding coming from? Are you seeing creative ways to get the funding? We don't know what the THA would look like in the future, but as you are sitting here now, speak to the funding for all of this.
Well, it did take some convincing, I must say, and I'm sure it's going to take some convincing across Tobago, because it's easy for us to appreciate a $30 million indoor sporting facility, or a $2 million paved road, or an $11 million community center. But it's difficult for us to appreciate investment in people development, right? So the funding is not going to be a challenge. I've said that I am prepared and my executive council is prepared to support the creative sector at this point in time. Of course, we are in a pandemic and we expect our creatives to feature in us being able to move out of this difficult period and assisting in diversifying the Tobago economy. So the funding will be made available. The company at this point in time is well funded by the Tobago House of Assembly. Of course, we have to invest in some works at the Shaw Park Cultural Complex in terms of preparing the necessary spaces. That is expected to cost, I will estimate, around $10 million or so. And it has to do with creating the song stage so that the film people can operate, creating the studio so that the orchestra can record, creating the band room so that the orchestra can practice, the dance studio for the dancers to dance, the spaces for the theater people to operate. So that's what I said when I said that the cultural complex is going to come to life. That is what I meant. So we are going to ensure that the necessary funding is made available. We're coming to the end of a financial year and we're going into a new one. And of course, this remains a priority of the current administration of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Okay, that's that. We'll see how it goes. To the CEO, I know that you and your team, you're very, very excited about all the possibilities. The artistic director spoke about being excited to assist with the cross-sectoral issues as they come across in terms of social issues and so on. And I want to ask you, as the head of operations here, will you force them to perhaps go into the schools? And I'm saying this again, I can use my 8-year-old daughter. Jared Prima has a young daughter as well. The Chief Secretary has young children. My daughter, I will call her a content creator, right? She has a page. But outside of just doing it because it's fun, do you see yourself mandating your team to go into the schools, preschool level, primary school level especially, to use this company to help with the education deficit that we have on the island? Is this something you all think is workable?
So, Glendora, I'm really happy you asked that question, because that is the bedrock of Tpac. That is the bedrock of Tpac. In order for us to really develop that, have that sustainability that we all look forward to and we all yearn for, it has to start at the very at the source. So Tpac responsibility and commitment to Tobago is to lend support to creative development anywhere that we can. Whether it be from the top agencies as the Tobago Festival Commission, the Tobago Tourism Agency, the Cultural Department, down to the primary schools. Because when we invest, we are providing some of the best training that money could buy for all our residents. When we arm them with the individuals, because just yesterday, over the last 2 days, we have been engaged in stakeholder consultations, which includes schools, which includes community groups, includes facilities, includes managers all across Tobago and Trinidad. So we are spreading the message far and wide. The artistic director would have even then shared that we have an entire a catalog, no, the product catalog.
Okay.
So you can literally see all the different services that Tpac will be presenting and say, I want A, B, and C, and we assign our people to lend support accordingly.
All right, so you hear that. You have to also tune into the launch on Independence Day because we're going to hear more about that. But I still want to put your artistic director on the spot because, Rayshawn, what I want to know about here, going back to that cross-sector collaboration, and you specifically identify the social issues, right? I want you to use this opportunity really because I understand what you're talking about and maybe everybody on the panel understands what you're talking about, but I want you to speak to the listening and viewing audience about what those opportunities can look like and some of the key types of messages that can be put out through this kind of collaboration.
So firstly, I want to jump back on the question that you asked my CEO, and that is about in-curriculum support in the school, because that's one of the products that we'll definitely be offering. What we've recognized through our industry evaluation is that traditional mechanisms for teaching and learning are difficult to sustain in this climate. Our children are digital, very sensitive. They want to be engaged and they want to be engaged. And because we've had to shift so almost instantaneously to digital platforms, what you're getting is a lot of children are losing. It's difficult to keep them engaged in some of those spaces. The other thing that we're recognizing is that there is a need for capacity building beyond the traditional maths and English. As a matter of fact, when it comes to navigating social life, there is only so much the traditional teaching can do. And so if a child is in a circumstance, and bullying is a common thing, and I have children as well, so I know about it, a child is not going to compute 1 + 1 = 2 and almost get himself out of the circumstance. But what we are going to be presenting is moral and value capacity building. We're talking about problem solving. We're talking about critical thinking. And so our in-curriculum support will deal with value building. We'll deal with moral education support. When it comes to cross-sector collaboration, one of the things that came out in the stakeholder consultation, and my CEO and film director could tell you how excited I got because of how hammer and nail the example was when a conversation about vaccine sensitization came up. And so you have all the ads, you have people talking and interviews, and you're seeing people getting vaccine, but still, in a lot of ways, the numbers don't translate. What the performing arts is able to do is to put people in a position where they feel more than call to action. They actually take action. And so those are some of the areas in which you can expect, and I want you to hold us accountable, you can expect Tpac to support and to fill in the gap. Remember I said, Glendora, wherever there are issues, social development issues, wherever those issues lie, Tpac's offering can stand at the front, can stand to reinforce, can stand to support, but most importantly, can stand to evoke the kind of change that we need in real time, particularly because the work that we intend to do is also data-driven. So it's art,
Yes.
but it's also science.
Right. And bringing Jared in right away as the film director, you are tasked with, I hope you're going to take this up, tell me, how do you also plan to take all of that work that your CEO and artistic director are speaking towards and having that re-emphasized, much like we see with international media. It's the same, just think about international news, the same story over and over and over and over, looping. And you know, we get frustrated. We don't like to hear the repetition, but there's a reason for that. So speak to that for me, Jared.
Well, I'm glad you said repetition because you said it some days ago and I held on to that. I was like, that's a very good point from Glendora. I'm going to hold it. Right? And the film department is going to be supporting all these efforts. We have to let you see what's going on. And not just the final product. I think it's also important for us to even show you how we build it. So that you get a sense of what's the science behind the art. So the film department is really going to be a support system to all the different departments as well, and really kind of making this thing come to the public's eye and let them see what we're really about, see that we are actually very genuine in our desire to serve. And I think it's great that we're talking film and talking narrative and talking catharsis and the way that a close-up does something very different to a wide shot. All right, so we're talking about that too. So therefore, we have film techniques that are designed to really emphasize the things that we think that we should be emphasizing to hammer home those points. So yeah, be ready.
All right.
And we are ready to serve.
Well, the chief secretary gave you all that task, and I mean, all you're talking big. The rest of us, we're going to see if they can deliver. Yeah, we're going to see if they can deliver. I mean, I know that they can deliver, but we're going to see how it goes. Chief, I want to ask the chief here now, as you hear all of this, and you think about the work that is expected to happen from Tpac. I saw recently, as Tpac is unfolding, because initially, like the rest of Tobagonians, are just seeing little things and wondering, hey, what's going on here, boy? You understand? I don't have my questions. But I saw a very interesting comment under one of the posts, or somebody made a post about Tpac, and I believe that person is a Trinidadian resident or Trinidadian born person. And the post went something like, the THA or Tobago leading the way. And this is something that should happen in Trinidad, right? You are the politician with this policy mandate. Have you had your colleagues on the style reach out and maybe inquire about what is happening here? Any potential wanting to borrow an idea or collaborate? You know how it happens?
Well, there's the potential, of course, for partnerships and collaboration. But I must say, one of the things that influenced this decision for me is when I reflected on orchestra some time ago that was started by the late, great Patrick Manning. I'm trying to remember the name of the orchestra. They used to call it the Prime Minister's Band, but it had a name that is evading me. No, I'll remember eventually. Right? But of course, in the Trinidad context, they have a number of things happening there. They have the music company, the film company, the theater company, etc. But I felt that in the Tobago space, there was a need for us to really place emphasis on the performing arts. So I think we are in an advantageous situation because we have all the arms coming under one umbrella, under the Tobago Performing Arts Company. And I think that lends itself to the kind of collaboration and the kind of cohesion that is required for us to transform the performing arts within this Tobago space, right? And there are a number of opportunities when I think about it, and I see the future Tobago as a result of the operations of this company. I'm seeing a number of opportunities from improved grades at school, because I believe that students who participate in the arts, whether playing pan, whether playing music, whether being engaged in dance or whatever, I believe those students stand a better chance at academic success.
Right.
I see when Prima begin to roll out those films telling those Tobago stories, and people begin to see more of what Tobago has to offer, not only the landscape of Tobago and the natural beauty that we have here, but also the raw talent. Of course, part of that talent will be developed by this company. The quality of the actors will improve. The quality of the technical persons will be improved as well. And I believe that when people see this coming out of Tobago, the chances are more persons, more film companies, more persons with interest within that sector will want to come into the Tobago space and do some work with our Tobago people at the forefront.
Right.
So I'm seeing lots of possibilities.
Let me ask you about another possibility, and we just have about 3 minutes again before we have to stop and take a break, and then come back. And again, if you're listening or viewing, you're going to get the opportunity to engage with the panel later on. We're going to put out the information there, but keep viewing. Chief, one of the potential opportunities, I don't know if you all have explored this, or if you've given them this mandate, or if you're thinking about it. Research for everything that we've done, and I mentioned earlier, I see that you all have adopted a particular scientific approach that is commendable. Many of us don't quite understand how that type of science works, and so there may be some pushback, and that's fine. You all have tough skin, you can deal with that. But also like collaborating with a university or so to really curate much of the digital content that will come from Tpac, not just the digital content, but even all of the work behind the scenes. Is that something that you've already explored? Speak to us on that.
Of course. Well, I thought about it, and I'm sure that persons within the company thought about it as well in terms of opportunities to link with international entities, universities and otherwise. And even as we talk about the University of Tobago, the performing arts is going to be a critical aspect of that. And therefore, the question has to be asked even from now, what role will Tpac play in that going forward in terms of providing not just training and development, but even certification in the performing arts? And I think that is something that will be explored going forward as well.
All right, so that's good to hear, because we have, we do many things, and one of the things that we're not as good as is recording and really just looking back. And I'm hoping to see, Mr. CEO, again, another mandate to your team to really go very far back and bring back some of those things that we forgot about. The first vessels that went throughout the islands from Tobago to Trinidad. In another place, I heard about a story where you have a pig jumping off something and swimming away by the port in Scarborough there. But again, that's another story. We have to really bring those stories to life. I think that it's important, and if the audience has seen you guys, seen you shaking your head, it's important to bring the history in a way that people can absorb, and then we go from there. All right, so we're going to stop and take a break right now. We'll be back. Stay with us. You're viewing Tobago Matters.
Hi, I'm Mr. Radgman, Drainage Supervisor with the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment. The decision for me to take the vaccine was a no-brainer, not just to protect myself and my family from the COVID virus, but the public as well. On a day-to-day basis, I'm charged with running the Roxborough District, which I have to interact with 600 plus workers, key stakeholders in the community and the public. So it's time for us to really stamp out this virus and eradicate it. So, backs up, protection starts with us.
Protect my family, my children, and to give myself a fighting chance against the war of COVID. My job takes me places. Every day I interact with over 100 workers in traffic management, the police, community stakeholders, and business persons. It's been too long. It's time to show COVID who's the boss. So, vax up, because protection starts with us.
Thank you for staying with us. You're viewing Tobago Matters. We are live on Tobago Channel 5. We are live on TTT. We're live on Facebook, on the Facebook pages for Tobago Channel 5 and the Office of the Chief Secretary, THA. We're also live on the radio on Pulse 89.5 FM, Radio Tambourine 92.7 FM, and Street 919 FM. All right, and as I said at the beginning and throughout, you're going to get the opportunity to engage with the panel. We are discussing harnessing our creativity. In the studio, we have the members of the Tobago Performing Arts Company and the Chief Secretary, who is also the Secretary with responsibility for tourism, culture, and transportation, and the person in charge of leading all of this. A very, very exciting discussion has happened so far. We've heard about all of the exciting plans that Tpac has, and of course we've heard from them, if you're just joining us, about the approach that they've been taking, in that they are pulling together more or less from the ground up. And so right now they're engaged in doing their stakeholder engagement, different surveys and so on, as they seek to roll out a plan of action in the Tobago space. Now, I want to speak to you guys a bit on monetizing Tpac, right? Because the Chief Secretary admitted he had to fight a lot and convince his colleagues to fund this so far. In Tobago and in Trinidad and Tobago,
understand that your art has value no matter where it stands, where it sits, where it goes, and understanding that value means that you can then put your own price on it. You would want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of that.
Guys, listen to what Rayshawn is saying. And I want to ask Jared very quickly to come in and speak to the opportunities in film. You know, I know I've had to realize that I had to pay for a script writer. So talk to those people very quickly. I'm going to tell you that we're going to take a question from WhatsApp. And of course, if you're listening or viewing, we're giving you the opportunity now to engage with the panelists. 635-1005, 635-1412. Those are the numbers to call in live on the program. Of course, you can put your questions on Facebook, Tobago Channel 5 Facebook page, Office of the Chief Secretary, THA Facebook page, and we have WhatsApp 688-4040. Jared, before we take this question from social media, speak to those people quickly.
All right, so the film industry, and the next time you look at a movie, just sit and look at the credits. And look at all those different jobs. Look at the potential, and a lot of those jobs that actually exist here already. We're even talking film, we're talking craft services, we're talking food. We're talking the best tailors to sew the best, and the best seamstresses to sew the best costumes. We're talking about carpenters to build sets. We're talking about those who are computer enthusiasts and might understand VFX, because I will tell you, I struggled with VFX in school, but I'm a director. And I knew that I understood enough to know I'm going to pay somebody to do that. So I say all this to say that film is a very broad base, and there are so many jobs, so many opportunities. Like I was saying to someone once, I am doing a local film and I might want to hear the plaques of the rubber ding slippers. And that's Foley. But where can I find that library of songs?
Right.
You can imagine someone who has sound equipment and they go on recording these, what we're going to say, local cultural songs. Create a library. Create a website, and you could call them or you could contact them and you could access these things. One of the things I also mentioned is us creating a database of images, because we know now we're going beyond blue screen, we're going beyond green screen. They're using LED screens now. They're making films with LED screens. So they're projecting images of backgrounds, and they will still want to come to Tobago because they will want it. But those things are valuable and they cost.
Thank you very much. We have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
Hello and good evening. This is directed towards Mr. Prima, the evaluator underwater videographer.
Caller, I'm not hearing you. Can you speak up a bit, please? We're not hearing you in studio.
Yes, this is direct question for Jared Prima. Right. I'm wondering. Well, I realize you all have film and everything involved. Is there anything? Two questions. Is there anything for that you will cater for the photographer or photography at that part of the creative industry? And what you have in store, planned for when it comes to the, there are some, for example, you do movies in Tobago, but, these things happen like once or whenever. So you have somebody interested in a particular field or art form, and it's only once, if you decide to get into the industry, it's only once or 2 years or something like that. How sustainable is that for somebody to actually get involved in here on the island, and what plans does Tpac have for persons coming up in the industry in that way? Thanks.
Okay, caller, thank you. So the person said, Mr. Prima, go ahead.
All right, so the first thing, and I'm happy you mentioned that, because just today, my CEO was saying that to me, that we are going to also allow training and development for our photographers. Rayshawn and I are very big on storytelling, and that's really the big thing. Everything is story. So it's really, it's exciting for us, because we have mentioned that in our plans, and that's going to be part of our rollout. We are going to be helping and developing our photographers as well. Also, we spoke about curating the process of filmmaking. We are going to need BTS, which is behind the scenes footage, which can actually be captured and created into content as well. So we're going to need photographers. And there is a way for this thing to become sustainable. That's why we're here now. That's what Tpac is all about. We're going to show you how to make this thing sustainable, and also through us leading the way, we are going to be creating content on the ground. Okay. And we have a lot of TikTokers. We can't leave all the TikTokers and the IG lives. There is a way to really sustain yourself by being very visible. So we'll talk about that as well.
Hello, this is getting exciting. Let's go to social media. We have a question. And this person says, yes, Glendora, your last. Okay, you all have switched that up on me a little bit. Technical control. Can we go back to the other question? This person says Canada is in the house.
That's Rayshawn's.
All right, so this person says, good night to the Chief Secretary, hostess, and panelists. The Tpac Cultural Complex is a state-of-the-art facility, and a significant quantity of our finances have been invested in just facility maintenance. What are the plans of the committee to generate income required in order for the facility to remain sustainable and profitable? So you all have kind of spoken to this a bit in terms of, things are going to come up. So in case anybody missed it, the program will be available. You can go back on Tobago Channel 5 page after and just take a look again, because a lot has been said. It's very, very exciting. A lot of the information, just in case you missed that. All right. So not seeing the other question, I want to go very quickly back to Jared, film director. Virtual reality. I'm really pushing all your limits here. CEO, the Chief Secretary, we can't go by the Chief Secretary anymore, because he tell all the hair, run with it. Run with it.
Then already the things you're adding, it seems like that budget had to go up.
Chief had a fight with the politicians, at some point. But listen, I'm asking, let me tell you why I'm asking this. Again, my 8-year-old asked me for a VR headset. I had to go and Google what's going on there. Right, so enough said, carry on.
So let me just explain the approach, right? Because, of course, last year we appointed a board. The board of directors, they were instructed to find a CEO, firstly. And following that, the company was instructed to recruit the best talent available in the country. And the hope was that that best talent can be found on the island. Right. Normally, you would find that the board of directors will appoint or hire a consultant. And say, consultant come in, will pay you a couple $1,000s to do a strategic plan that will then guide the operations of the company. This approach was different, and it was deliberately so, because I believed that we have the talent residing on the island, and I must admit that I had people like those sitting next to me in my mind. I hoped and prayed that these will be the people that will come on board and run with this thing, because I respect them, I respect their background, I respect their talent, and I believe they have what it takes to take the performing arts and the creative sector by extension and on the island and even the country to the next level. And therefore the plan was that these persons, with all the training, with all the expertise, with all the experiences, they will come in now to the company and determine the strategic plan going forward. How do we now have the kind of impact that we want to have based on the mandate of the company, based on the general objectives? How do we now get into the specifics in the various sectors to realize those very broad objectives? So they are not only operating in their capacities as artistic director and film directors, they are also the consultants who have a responsibility for ensuring that we are now able to advance the overall objectives of the company. So of course, whether it be virtual reality, animation, horror movies, whatever is required, right, to take it to the next level, to ensure that we realize those very broad objectives. Why can't Tobago as an island feature on some documentary on Netflix or one of those major platforms? Why can't Tobago be the next location for Black Panther 2, a possible location for them to film some aspect of Black Panther 2 or some other popular movie. Why can't we have that? Why can't Tobago produce the next Rihanna? Why can't Tobago produce the next drummer for Marshall Montano or Romain Virgo, some artists or some other artists in Jamaica, right? So I'm saying these are the very broad objectives. We have the talent, we have the expertise residing in the company, and I have all confidence that, of course, based on the guidance of the board of directors and the overall policy mandate of the Department of Culture, that they are going to realize these objectives. So I am open to all ideas, and while funding might be limited, we are placing emphasis on creativity at this point in time.
Well, I hope something happens to allow for the company perhaps to seek funding, because we need VR. Yeah, that's the in thing. Let's go to the phone lines. We have a caller. Good evening, caller.
Yes, good evening.
Caller, good evening.
Yes, good evening. I just want to ask, what would be the relationship between Tpac and the Division of Culture? Because as I listen to the rollout of some of the functions, I'm seeing some sort of duplications or takeover, I don't know. And I know the CEO was a senior officer over at Culture. So I just want to know what would be the relationship between the two organizations.
All right, Chief.
So the Department of Culture will have to give up some of its previous responsibilities. The department will no longer have responsibility for training and development in terms of music, dance, film, and those kind of things. All of those responsibilities will be shifted, or are now shifted, to the Tobago Performing Arts Company. But as I said before, when I explained the differences between the department, Festivals Commission, and this company, the Department of Culture has an overall responsibility for all those companies, right? In terms of the policy mandate, the Department of Culture will set the overarching policies for culture on the island. They will continue to be responsible for aspects of the creative sector that do not fall within the remit of any of these companies. The fashion industry is one example, right? And of course, as the Secretary of the Division of Tourism, Culture and Transportation, the Board of Directors of Festivals Commission and the Board of Directors of the Tobago Performing Arts Company are guided by the policies coming out of the division. Yeah.
All right. So there you've had it. Let's go to Facebook. We have a question on Facebook. There are a number of young, talented, artistic students who are unable to afford to pay for private art and craft tuition, music, culture, film, etc. What will be the criteria for the average young person who is interested in developing a career in arts and culture to be able to benefit from training offered at Tpac?
So I'll take the question. So, and that is one of the core pillars of Tpac, which is the training and development. So before now, an artist didn't have any clear pathway how can one achieve to become a dramatist or a musician. Everybody built it up as they move along. What we intend to do is to create a clear pathway as to how you can achieve that. Thus allowing you to, one, develop your craft, two, cut away some of the costs. Because we are investing in our residents who are receiving a certain wealth and body of training, this helps to reduce the cost when a particular person going and have to pay for this sort of training or this sort of development in any particular way, because we are now absorbing that and now passing it on through our residents. So we see us having a very broad reach, because when Tpac is at full functioning capacity, we will engage almost close to 90 young individuals here on the island. And just think about 90 individuals trained in dance, drama, or film, theater, and now going out all across Tobago, all across in the communities, and now passing on what they have learned at different levels. So it's a trickle-along effect. So we're doing a a bottom-up approach, but we're also doing a trickle-down approach. So we, as I said before, we are dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and the umbrella is broad.
Let me ask you all a sort of trick question. Are you all getting creative to reach out to some of the parents? I mean, because we are in a society where, unfortunately, people still feel as if arts, culture, sport, those things, you ain't getting nowhere with that. I mean, notwithstanding all of the younger generation are content creators. People on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, Snapchat, everything you name it, and people are extremely, extremely creative with what they're putting out there. But we still have the people who are in charge of the younger people not yet fully embracing this as an area that you can be actively engaged and earn revenue. How are you all going to deal with these people?
And let me just start, and probably others could weigh. I think the mindset is changing a bit.
I agree.
Right? Because a number of parents, especially, are seeing this as an alternative career path. No longer are parents only seeing their charges as becoming doctors or lawyers or politicians. But even sport, I'm hearing a lot of parents, especially while watching the Olympics, talking about the possibilities of their child, right, representing this country at the Olympics someday, right? So I think a number of parents are encouraging their children to get involved in sports, to get involved in music, dance. I think most of the cultural organizations that you have on the island have large support at all the dance classes, etc. However, of course, in many cases, it is seen as a hobby. And therefore, the challenge now is moving us away from that hobby mindset into seeing it as something that has the potential to bring income and to even bring wealth.
All right, let's see how that goes. I have to go to the phone lines now. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good afternoon. Good evening. I called earlier. I'm just bursting with excitement listening to everything here. I can't control myself at all. Two things. Tobago has, I think our Monetary Secretary was saying it earlier, Tobago has always been a platform, a background for movies since Swiss Family Robinson. Tobago 1677 was shot here. There are a number of movies. Students came from the States and did movies here. A lot of people did documentaries here. So Tobago is right. Just the backdrop alone is perfect for film right here in Tobago. And I'm looking forward for lots more to actually happen with this company. One question though. We know over the years companies come and go and stuff keep on changing. I'm not quite sure what sort of tenure the company has or the board has that we want to be able to see continuity and to have this thing actually keep on going on and continue. We don't want it to start and stop. We want the momentum to continue to flow. Is there anything in place for that longevity to actually happen? I mean, I don't want to ask how long the board is going to stay before it doesn't really, but to be able to have continuity, and that's my major concern.
Excellent question, caller. Thank you. We'll go to the Chief Secretary.
Well, I'm
sure you have control over that, but
there are some realities that we must accept that there can be changes in terms of the direction of an administration. What I will say is that once there is a P&M administration in place, that this drive towards placing emphasis on the creative sector and specifically the Tobago Performing Arts Company, that will be supported by any P&M administration going forward. The board has a tenure of 1 year, and every individual engaged by the company will have a 3-year contract, as is the policy now of the Tobago House of Assembly, and our companies within the THA are expected to follow that policy as well. So I'm just saying that because it's a good question. I'm sure you remember when, after the Manning administration was voted out, that the People's Partnership, when they came into office, they quickly wound up the Divine Echoes Orchestra, and we haven't heard anything of it since then.
That's the thing. Unfortunately, political administrations can change, and so that's a policy decision from each political administration. Before we go to social media, let me ask you a question. Why is it just 1 year for the board. Is there a particular reason behind that tenure?
Well, in some cases we appointed 2-year boards, but we just felt that given the climate with the 6-6 and all of that, that it was better to appoint a board for a period of 1 year.
Right.
And when another administration comes into office, whether it continues to be the PNM or another political party, that they will have an opportunity to appoint a new board at the point in time.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So we go to social media. We have another question. Question to any of the leaders of Tpac. Through the Tpac lens, what does the future for arts and culture in Tobago look like? Now, you guys have spoken a lot about this, but I suppose this person may want a nutshell kind of response.
So through the Tpac lens, we want to re-energize. About 24, 25 years ago, the arts, 30 years ago, when Best Village was in its heydays, Tobago was the place, the action was ripe, according to by local parlance. That's what we want to bring back. We want to bring back that kind of energy. And with the energy comes with the creativity. And then we will now want to harness that creativity through the kind of training and development so that we can get something that can make us competitive nationally, regional, international. And that is what we intend to do. And I just want to touch base on what the Chief Secretary said before, because I say it many times to my team, we are making this company too big to fail. That is one way. I said it, and because it's a real question that people are asking. We're making it too big to fail. And when I say too big to fail, I know the average Tobagonians feel very strongly like us, that Tobago is rich in culture and the arts. And I know these very same, because I've been in the vineyards with them. And they've all, always hoped, they all hoped for something like this, and we finally have it. And I believe the kind of programs that we are building out and the kind of way we'll be reaching out to our stakeholders, the people in Tobago wants this. And whether, whatever happens, this is here to stay. I'm very confident about that. And we will continue to do what we need to do at this point in time to ensure that, one, there's value for money, and two, we serve the people in the way that we ought to.
So I have a question before we go to Facebook.
Sure.
In see yourself pushing some of the boundaries and exploring those taboo areas of Tobago for people to understand it? Because the question that, what he was putting out there was really information to get people to understand, well, okay, this may be your thought, this is the science behind it, this is what I think, that kind of thing. Do you see yourself tackling those taboo areas that people don't like us to talk about? You know, like somebody might probably grumble, I say, we'll be on TV.
I am all in that. That's actually my best, that's my best answer. My best answer is that I love to play with the controversial, and actually, no matter what we say as viewers, as consumers of content, we are drawn to controversy. I just want to let that be known. And there is always something that we have not considered, and there's always another side to the thing that we haven't necessarily seen. But we run with that particular story, and that's also very interesting about our culture here in Tobago. That feeds superstition. But there might be more to it. And I actually think that, it's part of our oral tradition. And I think it's important for us to really explore and understand it. Understand how we also use it as a shield. I also think that's very interesting as well too. Right. So there's a lot to delve into, and I am actually ready to delve.
Listen, I really hope Ole could find the money, because Ole hyping me up, and I don't like to get hyped up for nothing. Let's go to social media. We should have a question. Congratulations. How can Trinidadians who are interested in the growth of the creative sector lend support to this present initiative? CEO?
So the approach, this is something, stakeholder engagement we had yesterday. We met with our stakeholders from Trinidad, facilities, national bodies, NGOs from Trinidad, and collaboration is big. When I met my staff the first day, I said something to them. I said inclusivity, 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 and whenever I say it, I say it 3 times. Because that's how we intend to function. So collaboration lies at the heart of how we intend to really approach doing work, because we don't believe that we know everything. There are agencies, there are bodies out there who have been tested in terms of various practices and programs, and we want to be able to weigh in and be guided. Collaborate with you in terms of 1, in terms of best practice, 2, just producing work. So that is the approach. So there will be opportunities for our brothers and sisters across the water in Trinidad, because there are 3, when I spoke to the team about building up their programs, there are three levels to the program. There must be a very strong local training aspect coming out from our knowledge bearers. Nationally, there must be, in terms of our instructors, the people who are providing necessary training coming from Trinidad, but internationally as well. So we really want to, and then you see, because of the technology, we don't necessarily need someone traveling from New York City to come to Tobago to provide training. We have screens in our studios, we have a tripod and a camera, and a teacher from West Africa, from Guinea, from Europe, from Grenada, training classes here. So we intend to collaborate far and wide, and we intend to use the technology to be able to advance that. Okay, good. And your Chief Secretary also spoke earlier about when you gave the mandate to do this. It was an open call nationally, particularly to find the talent. We have another question on Facebook. Are there plans to facilitate persons in the category of costume design? And I think, Jared, you mentioned this earlier. Come on, talk to the people. They're getting excited.
Yes, I am very excited. And it's not just, of course, in film and theater and drama. We're going to be sharing those resources. But we can't go on stage naked. We can't film naked either. Unless that's the end. But really, there is a space for people to learn about all those different areas of filmmaking, all those different areas of stage management and theater that involves all these different areas. So definitely costume design, because we're going to talk about things like color and color palettes, and also how these work with lighting and period pieces, and also if we're talking mise en scène, which is the frame and what we see within the frame.
So let me ask you guys a question. Sorry to interrupt your flow there, your creative flow. Yeah. Is this one of the artistic, the residency thing that the CEO was talking about that you're going to look? Is that something that falls into this particular area?
Oh yes, certainly. When you consider performing arts, you consider a tier of functions. Right. And so after you look at the artistic team, the dance coordinator, the drama coordinator, artistic director, musical director, film director, you're also looking at people who will manage these processes, stage managers, production managers, stage hands. Sometimes people take the role of a stage hands or what we call, sometimes referred to in the space as runners, but they too form a totally valuable part of the total process. Same with costume design. And so this is to say that there is a technical aspects of the company that also will be required to be built out alongside our resident artists.
Okay, lovely. Let's go to social media again. We have another question. And this question reads, to become a resident of Tpac, are there prerequisites such as residence on the island of Tobago?
So, Tpac is Tobago grown, but Tobago roots, global branches. We belong to the country of Trinidad and Tobago. There is a mandate for us to develop individuals here on the island, and we take that mandate very seriously. But we will not be excluding. We will not be excluding, our brothers and sisters from Trinidad. So having the residency is not a prerequisite, but of course we'll be focusing heavily on making sure that we have a good cadre of individuals coming out from here in Tobago. So we're asking Tobagonians for the form, because this is the real. Since we launched the company, the soft launch of the company, we have been bombarded with calls from friends and colleagues from Trinidad. Yeah. How can we become part of the company? Yeah. So I'm asking all Tobago artists to seize the opportunity. This was created for you primarily, and as we Pastor Christian Pitney first. So we want to make sure that we do just that. We kind of make sure we consider and feed into the Tpac or local grown talents right here in Tobago. But of course, we wish to expand it, because creativity, we can't house creativity in a bubble. We have to let it grow, we have to let it move, and that's exactly how we intend to function.
Right. So in terms of, I suppose, raising awareness as you go, and I'm jumping the gun because you're not even launched yet. You're going to be launched on Independence Day next week, Tuesday.
Fireworks.
But because so many people are, excited about this, and of course you see the difference in the communication style. This is the second time I've noticed this on our Tobago Matters program, where there's something that attracts, I suppose, those younger people. Mm-hmm. A lot of the feedback comes through social media, and of course technical control has to go through that and sift and bring it out, and so on. And so I'm urging some of you younger ones out there, pick up the phone and call in, all right? But let's go to Facebook again. Again, they're working hard in the control room with these Facebook and WhatsApp questions. So this person is asking, I have encountered a number of very talented performers in Tobago over the years. However, some of them have a serious lack of discipline. A very good example, for example, is, and this person has called somebody here, are there any sort of plans to establish programs to assist individuals in that area of personal development? And this person may have tuned in late because you all spoke to this.
Holistic development.
But just go again.
Yes, so certainly. So, one of the things my mentor said to me when I was a child, with the hope, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, with the hope of becoming a full-time performing artist, is that talent without discipline is like you have no talent. Because if discipline means that you're not teachable, you're not trainable, you're not coachable. And so as part of our multi-tier approach to our program, we're going to be training our artists artistically, technically and holistically. The question that you ask about deals with the holistic training and development. And so when we're talking holistic training, we're talking about building up the total talent, understanding of space, understanding of people, understanding of your role, even if it's in the midst of, you're in a session with trauma victims. There's certain ways in which you respond to some of those things. Sensitivity to climate, sensitivity to issues, and all of those things will form part of our holistic development process alongside things like conflict resolution, alongside things like peer mediation, alongside things like capacity building for the development and maintenance of mental and physical health. because we recognize at a time where suicide ideation has gone up, and people are genuinely trying to cope with our climate, there are a lot of investment we have to make in the physical and mental capacity building areas. So discipline falls under our holistic development approach, so that is something you can definitely look out for.
But let's add to what my colleague just shared. Just the developing of your brand.
Yeah.
Requires
Your
discipline.
brand. Because with Tpac is not just about just engaging people to just work and get a 3-year contract. That is not the intention.
Yeah.
At the end of 3 years, you may choose, you know what, I'm going to actually look at probably, because at the end of 3 years, to get back into the company, there's an audition process again. So we're constantly looking for new talent. But the thing is, at the end of 3 years, you must harness a certain amount of skill, because you have learned all the various things that we would have been provided to you, so that you could choose to go out on your own now and try your own trade.
Yeah.
And developing of your brand and how disciplined and all of these things, because we all live in Tobago. There are people who are walking around as prima donnas, you know, so they feel they're into all the different things, and they don't understand how those attitudes or how they project themselves affect their brand. And this is what ultimately, this is your money shot. This is what people will see and wish to choose to engage with. Because if you have a very poor attitude, or you have a very poor way of communicating, people may not want to pay money to see you produce work or perform for them.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is all part of the training. So that we're talking that customer service is a big issue on the island, but this is one way, and we are doing it through the arts.
Yeah.
We want to ensure that when we have an artist, wherever they are, they must go and speak on any platform and speak on the culture of Tobago, or speak about their own practice in a particular way and articulate themselves in a particular way that we could feel proud about. Because what we have done in the past, just allow me, what we have done in the past, we've trained the dancers, we have trained the singers, but that's all we have trained them to do. All they could do is lift their legs, or you know, they cannot even form proper sentences. And so that holistic development of the artist is very important in Tpac's mandate.
I want to ask this, and we have a question on social media again coming up. Exposure, when I think about exposure in my own little world, that is, I think about taking people out of Tobago. And this is primarily in the context of how small Tobago is. I know we live in a digital world. What does exposure look like for you guys? Because for a lot of people, you have to kind of throw people in the fire so that you kind of get the experience. You're providing the training, and you're making sure that they're up to a point. What does your exposure look like for them outside of, I suppose it's in-house training? Is there, within Tpac, we say, well, okay, you're going to go to this particular place, go to Trinidad, go to the US, go to Sweden, go to wherever, and do this particular, have this engagement, so that you do the real work in a real place without the comfort of being home. Is that some? I don't know if this fits into the whole culture aspect.
I want to weigh in here. At one of our engagement, stakeholder engagement, we had the CEO of the Tobago Tourism Agency. He was present there, and when we shared with the entire team, group of individuals in the Zoom meeting, Tpac's mandate, and he said, Elvis, and he said to the team, this is exactly what Tobago needs at this point in time, how we are shifting the conversation. And he said, one of the only downside I see to this is that this should have been broadcast to a larger audience, a regional, international audience. Because when I sit with my team and we discuss plans for Tpac, we are talking tourism, but we're not just talking tourism from the perspective of people coming to Tobago. How about we have the Tobago Tourism Agency with their partners and other affiliates in Europe or North America or Canada, making plans, because Tpac is touring all of Canada, all of Europe for an entire month period, and filling halls where people could come and spending pound or US dollars to see us perform. Just adding value in terms of the monetary value, and then creating a certain kind of interest. What this company that's came out of this Trinidad and Tobago, where is this? And we're telling these stories and not providing another layer of promoting Tobago and as to why they should be coming here to Tobago. So that's the kind of dream that we have for this company.
All right. Okay, that sounds exciting, and we'd love to see that. And it kind of ties into this question I'm seeing here. This person is asking, does Tpac intend to present and or release the outcome of the stakeholder engagement process? How is the information from this process being captured? Stakeholder engagement.
Sorry, Glendora, I got sidetracked a bit. Repeat that question.
So, Mr. CEO,
yes.
The question is, will Tpac when we started, you talk about some of the immediate goals of the company, all right? And part of that was stakeholder engagement. This person is asking, will the company release the outcome of the stakeholder engagement process? And how is the information from the process being captured?
So at this point in time, every aspect of what we do at this point is captured. One of our mandates internally is to we want Tpac to be an open book. So the stakeholders, the consultation, all of our sessions are recorded and further dissected. So we have to generate reports coming out of these sessions. You know, there are some very pertinent questions, there are some very pertinent comments and suggestions that came out that we are capturing. And then we will be, of course, doing a report on those things. So to one, of course, to the board, and of course, to the policymakers, so they understand what people are saying. And two, you know, the information that's coming out from our surveys. We want people to know what the island. So when we decide that we are going to place focus on a particular discipline, you will understand the reason why that discipline we are placing focus on at this particular point in time, because the data guided us in that direction. Yeah. And that is the sort of approach we're taking with Tpac is concerned. Thank you, Melanie Roberts-Radgman.
All right, then. To the Chief Secretary, one question that the auditing of the company, will the company be engaged in audits?
Of course. It's a public entity, so the books of the company must be audited as required by law.
Okay, and again, when we go back to the possibilities for funding, right, and this may be a bit precarious because of that legislation issue that we have, is there a way for this company to source funding without having to have an allocation from the Executive Council? Does the law allow for that?
That's an interesting
question. Because they need a lot of money. That's
an interesting question. There should be some way to do that. I have known about collaborations with public entities and other public entities. For example, NGC, a company from Trinidad, well, it's a national company, the National Gas Company has collaborated with the Assembly on some initiatives. In terms of collaboration with private entities, as it relates to direct funding, that is something that I will have to look into, because I'm not sure whether the law provides for that. But there is nothing that prevents collaboration between Tpac and the private entity. The challenge might be direct funding.
Okay. Yeah. So even in terms of the, let's say, other governments, we have diplomatic missions in Trinidad. They tend to do government-to-government arrangements. So let's say somebody, we asked or they offered a box of virtual reality headsets. Can they accept that?
I see no challenge with that, right? As I said, the issue may be direct funding from their bank account into Tpac's bank account.
Right.
That might be a challenge, according to my understanding of the laws and stuff.
All right.
But in terms of those kinds of collaborations, equipment, programs, and that sort of stuff, shouldn't be an issue at all.
Okay. Very, very, very excited. Now, before we go to some other questions, is there any specific area that any of you all wanted to raise that you have not raised just yet before I bombard you with other questions? That is very, very important to the listening and viewing audience. This is something new. The Tobago Performing Arts Company will be launched on Independence Day. That's next week, Tuesday. It's a new company. If you've only just joined us, I will suggest that you go back on the Facebook page for Tobago Channel 5 and look at the program in its entirety from the start. they are doing something different. The Chief Secretary has made a bold declaration about the role of the orange economy to Tobago, especially in the post-COVID-19 world. All right, and so here we've been having a discussion about what that may look like and what the company, is currently doing, surveys, stakeholder engagement, the ideas that they have, and so on. And so we have the opportunity now to just hear a bit from them, but I'm being told we have a caller on the line, so let's go to the caller. Good morning, caller. Good evening, caller, sorry.
Good evening. You hear me?
Yes, caller, and unfortunately we have a short bit of time, so I'm asking you to ask quickly.
All right. Jared Prima, I love that play that you did for Heritage a couple years ago. That's like 12 years ago. That thing has been indelible in my mind.
Caller, we need a question, please, because we have to wrap up soon.
I'm just complimenting him.
Okay.
And I just want to plug in also. Can we keep this as authentic Tobago as possible? Yes, we have trainers and so on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much. Jared, a good compliment there for you. Unfortunately, time flies when we're having fun, right? So we're going to ask each of you 30 seconds only to give your closing remarks. We're going to end with the Chief Secretary. And so I'm going to ask Jared Prima. You go quickly, 30 seconds.
All right, and I had so much more to add into what's coming on Chapter, but we're really excited about the potential for what film can do for Tobago, for how film can bring our cultural stories alive on an international stage, and how it can also empower us on the ground. So please get involved.
All right. Rayshawn, 30 seconds.
The gatekeepers are moving in a direction where they're saying that the creative sector has the potential to outpace all other traditional sectors. Recently, Barbados launched its culture department in the middle of a pandemic. That says something about where the world is going with creative ideas and creative ingenuity. Tobago is rich in same. This is the opportunity to jump on board. And the question you must be asking yourself is, how can I support Tpac? Because there will be a significant amount of ways in which you can support.
All right, Chief Secretary, you take us out. You speak for you and the CEO.
I must say I'm very comforted by what I've heard this evening. It has been an enlightening experience for me, and congratulations to all the technocrats involved in this process.
All right, thank you very much. And that's all we have for this evening. We thank you for viewing Tobago Matters, and we invite you to look out for episode 6 in 2 weeks' time. Good night.